Hello students, I welcome you all to the lecture number 9 of Indian Contract Act in CA Foundation as well as CLAT lecture series sponsored by Srijendra Rank Zone. I am your mentor Shekhar Gehlot. In this lecture, in the coming lecture, we are going to discuss fraud, misrepresentation, we have misrepresentation and mistake. Now we are discussing various elements in a contract which vitiates the contract, okay, which go on to vitiate a free consent, and any agreement must have a free consent. So anything which vitiates a free consent renders the agreement as voidable or void as per the applicable case. Okay, so we have discussed undue influence and coercion. Now other one is fraud. Okay, fraud in the basic sense we can also call it a cheating. Okay, we can call it a cheating or fraud. They both run parallel. They have the same meaning. Definition of fraud is given under section 17 of the Act. Fraud means and includes any of the following acts committed by a party to a contract. It means and includes. It means it can have more ways. You can have some more ways of committing fraud, which may not be written here, but yes, fraud can happen in number of ways. The Act acknowledges that. It says it means and includes any of the following acts committed by a party to a contract, committed by a party to a contract. Like in case of coercion, we discussed coercion said anyone can commit a coercion. Anyone who's not even a party to the agreement may commit coercion. But here fraud can be committed only by someone who is a party to the contract, or with his connivance someone else committed fraud, but the connivance of the party is required. Connivance means the involvement of the party. Connivance means involvement, permission. Okay, so if fraud is committed on the party with connivance of the other party of the contract, or with actively by other party to the contract, or with a connivance, or by his agent, someone who is his agent. So in the law, the action of agent and the principal are one and the same thing. So if the agent is doing something, it is also attributable to the principal himself, or to induce him to enter into the contract. Okay, to induce him to enter into the contract. Now let us do some analysis of this definition. The suggestion. Okay. Okay, now, sorry, definition is going on. By his agent with an intent to deceive other party thereto, or his agent, okay, to induce him to enter into contract. Now, what do they do through fraud? They make him to believe. They make him to believe on what thing? The suggestion as a fact of that which is not true by one who does not believe it to be true. First of all, there is a suggestion. The parties make the other party to believe on a suggestion or a fact which is not true. Okay, and they themselves know that this is not true. Ram sells a diamond to Shyam. Now here Ram tells that the diamond is 13 carat. Okay, diamond is a 13 carat. While Ram knows that it is just 6 carat. Okay. He knows that the diamond is just 6 carat, but because Shyam appears to be a rich man who does not have an active knowledge of diamonds, he tells Shyam that this diamond is 13 carat, and then extracts a higher price for that particular diamond, because 13 carat diamond definitely sells a lot higher, almost more than double to the 6 carat diamond, depending upon the purity. This is called fraud. He gives a suggestion that this is a 13 carat diamond, though he knows and he believes that this is not a 13 carat diamond. Okay, so this is a active case of fraud. The active concealment of a fact by one having knowledge or belief of the fact. The active concealment of fact. Now Ram takes a government job. Now when you go for a government job, government asks you to fill an affidavit whether there is any criminal history, whether you have any criminal history. Now Ram conceals his criminal history. He has been a history cheater. He is wanted in murder or some other cases. Okay, he has undergone the jail term for 3 to 4 years as well. Now the government has a right, government or any employer has a right to not employ any criminal or a person with criminal mentalities into his office so as to prevent the criminalization of the office. So if Ram tells the government that yes, he has been a criminal or he is still a criminal wanted in so many cases, he knows the government is not going to give the job to him. So he now actively conceals about his criminal status. Okay, he conceals that, he says I am clean. I have no criminal antecedents. I have not committed any crime at all. So now this is active concealment of fact, and this is suggestion of fact which is wrong, and he has the knowledge that this suggestion is wrong. A promise made without any intention to performing it. A promise made without any intention to performing it. Ram contracts. Ram contracts Shyam for construction of a house, and Ram will pay 5 lakh rupees upon the completion of the construction. Now this is a regular contract. Okay, he'll pay 5 lakh rupees. Later he refuses to pay 5 lakh rupees to Shyam. Now what has happened here is, in this case, this is merely a case where there is a breach of contract. Ram has committed a breach of contract because he has now failed to discharge his obligation. He is not paying 5 lakh rupees to Shyam as promised. But if he but it was at the time of entering into this contract when he just contracted Sham that you construct the house, and at the time of the construction completion I'll pay you 5 lakh rupees. But at the time of making this promise itself, he did not have any intention to pay back. He never had any intention. He always intended just to get a free construction. That is fraud, a promise made without an intention of performing it. Any other act fitted to deceive, any other act which is fitted to deceive, like I say, Shyam supplied substandard rice, knowing that this is not a basmati rice. Ram wanted basmati rice. Shyam agreed that I'll sell you basmati rice. Ram made the payment for basmati rice. Shyam took the payment for basmati rice. But ultimately, what Shyam supplied was not a basmati rice. It was a substandard rice. It is also a kind of fraud. Any such act or omission as the law specially declares to be fraudulent, or any other act which law says is a fraudulent, like on the online websites you see a lot of time, you buy an Adidas shoe but you get a local shoe which is just a first copy of Adidas, which is the first copy of Adidas. It looks like Adidas but it's not Adidas, or it looks like Nike, it's not a Nike, something like this. It's a fraud. Mere silence as to facts likely to affect the willingness of a person to enter into a contract is not fraud, unless the circumstances of the case are such that regard being had to them, it is the duty of a person keeping silence to speak, or unless his silence is in itself equivalent to speech. So now, a mere silence as to facts likely to affect the willingness of a person entering into a contract is not fraud. Mere silence. Now Ram sells. Suppose now is selling. Ram is selling a piece of land to Shyam. Ram is selling a piece of land to Shyam. Now Shyam asks, Now Shah is if government is going to construct an airport nearby, Ram does not answer. Ram just keeps on talking, or Ram just dodges the question. Okay, Ram has successfully dodged the question. He does not answer it. So this is not a fraud. Okay, he is neither saying no, neither saying yes. This is not a fraud, but in such some circumstances where Ram Shyam says. Ram Shyam says, I will buy this piece of land. Only when you confirm that government is going to build an airport nearby, construct an airport nearby, and if you do not reply to my communication, I'll understand it to be an affirmative. I'll understand that you mean to say, yes, government is actually constructing an airport nearby. In this case, it is a duty upon Ram. It's a duty upon Ram to reply and tell you whether the government is actually planning to do so or not. Okay, whatever knowledge he has, he can simply say, I do not know, but he has to reply. If he does not reply, then in that case, it becomes a fraud. It is committed by, it is, your consent is vitiated by fraud in this case. Let's do some examples. Example number one says, A sells by auction to B a horse, which A knows to be unsound. A says nothing to be about the unsoundness of the horse. This is not a fraud by A. A is selling a horse. Okay. A knows that the horse is unsound. Okay, horse is not mentally fit to be a horse. Okay, he is unsound. But B never asked him that whether the horse is unsound or he is mentally fit. A never told himself. Okay, this is not a fraud. But if B would have asked A that whether this horse is of sound mind, and if A had replied yes, or A had not said anything, okay, then it would have amounted to fraud because there was an active concealment, or there would have been a suggestion of fact which he believed not to be true. B is A's daughter and has just come of age. Here, the relation between the parties would make it A's duty to tell B if the horse is unsound. Okay. Okay, now B is A's daughter. Okay, now A is selling horse to B. Okay, and she is just 20 years. Okay, here the relation between parties is such that now A must tell B that horse is unsound, because she otherwise would think that A is my father and definitely would sell me a good thing. Here, it is duty of the A to tell that horse is unsound mind, even if it doesn't say anything. In this case, it will be a fraud. Example 3, B says to A, if you do not deny it, I shall assume that the horse is sound. A says nothing. Here, A speech is equivalent to A silence is equivalent to speak. A has not spoken anything, but A has definitely suggested that the horse is a sound horse. Horse is a sound horse. Here, A was duty bound to reply that no, the horse is not a sound horse, or horse is under some ailment. These are the cases of fraud. Let's take another example. A and B, being traders, enter into a contract. A and B, being traders, enter into a contract. A has a private information of a change in the prices which would affect B's willingness to proceed with the contract. A is not bound to inform. Okay. A has a private information. Okay. That some change is going to happen, like a stock market. Okay. I'm buying shares. My broker has some private information. He believes that prices are going to drop down, but he doesn't say anything to me, and I buy them. This is not a fraud. This is just a business acumen, business understanding. Analysis of section 17. The following are the essential elements of the fraud. There must be a representation or assertion that it must be false. So these are the essential elements of the fraud. First, there must be a representation or assertion that it must be false. However, silence may amount to fraud or an active concealment may amount to fraud. First of all, there must have been a representation or some assertion, like we read, suggestion of fact, or some concealment has to be there. Okay, and even silence may amount to fraud or an active concealment depending upon the circumstances. The representation must relate to a fact. The representation must be to a fact. The representation should be made before the conclusion of the contract with the intention to induce the other party to act upon it. If anything is said or done after the contract is concluded between the parties, that will not amount to fraud. But it should happen just before the conclusion of the contract, and it should be of such a nature that if this was told, the contract would not have taken place, or there may have been some different negotiations over the contract. So that concealment which is happening before the contract will amount to fraud. The representation or statement should be made with the knowledge of its falsity, or without belief in its truth, or recklessly not caring whether it is true or false. Now, another important key fact is when he made that representation. When that person made the representation, or he made a suggestion that the horse is of sound mind, he believed that the horse is not unsound mind. Okay, or he had a knowledge that what I'm telling is false, or he just made a reckless statement. He is not aware whether the horse is sound mind or not sound mind. Okay, like this. The other party must have been induced to act upon the representation or assertion. Other party acted upon that representation. What representation he made is not relevant, but that party should also act upon that information. Now he says that this diamond is 13 carat, though he knows the diamond is 6 carat, and the party is buying this carat only because this diamond, because they believe this diamond is 6 13 carat. Okay, so now here is a parties acting upon that representation. The other party must have relied upon the representation and must have been deceived. Okay, now the other party is deceived because the other party has relied upon that assertion that yes, this diamond is 13 carat. The other party acting on the representation must have consequently suffered a loss. Definitely, the party is going to suffer a loss if we are going to sell someone a 6 carat diamond by the rate of 13 carat diamond by telling her that this is a 13 carat diamond. Definitely, there is going to be a 3 times or 4 times difference in the price, or maybe even 10 times difference in the price, because 13 carat diamond is a very rare diamond. It may cost you 10 lakh 20 lakh rupees, while a 6 carat diamond may be 1 lakh 2 lakh only. So there is going to be a very big amount of setback or a loss to the party who believed on this representation. Effect of fraud upon the validity of a contract. When the consent to an agreement when the consent to an agreement is caused by the fraud, the contract is voidable at the option of party defrauded, and he has the following remedies. So we know when there is a fraud, the effect on the contract is that contract will become voidable. And who has the option to treat the contract voidable? The party who has suffered a loss, or the party who has been so deceived, who has been so frauded upon by. Now the party upon whom the fraud has been committed has following options. He can resign the contract within reasonable time. Okay, within reasonable time, he can withdraw the contract. He can say that I will not fulfill the contract. What is the reasonable time? Time and again I'll tell you, it depends upon the situation to situation. Reasonable time is depends upon the situation to situation. Depends upon situation to situation. Normally, the law says it is 1 year within coming to the knowledge of fraud. Within 1 year of knowledge of fraud, you must resign the contract. He can sue for damages. Now, when I have sold 13 carat diamond, okay, 6 carat diamond to someone for by the rate of 13 carat diamond by telling it to be 13 carat. So a 6 carat is 1 lakh rupees, 13 carat is say 7 lakh rupees. So he can definitely take 6 lakhs rupees back along with the interest over them for whatever amount of time I have used those 6 lakhs rupees illegally. Okay. He can insist on the performance of the contract on the condition that he shall be put in the position in which he would have been had the representation been made to. Or I can complete the contract, but I say that I will pay the price only of the normal thing. Suppose I have not made full payment of the 13 carat diamond. Okay, it is a 6 carat diamond, it costs rupees 3 lakh, and 13 carat diamond costs rupees 13 lakh, and I paid only 1 lakh rupees. Now I'll say, though I will buy your diamond, I will buy the diamond, but I will pay only 3 lakhs. I will pay only the rate which I would have paid if you had not committed fraud upon me. If the fraud was not committed upon me, the diamond would have costed me 3 lakhs rupees and I have paid 3 lakhs rupees. But now you are asking me to pay 13 lakh rupees. 1 lakh I have paid advance. So it's okay, you keep my money. I'm not asking my money back. And I'll keep your diamond. But I'll just pay you the market price of this particular diamond. That is 3 lakhs rupees. I'll pay you 2 lakh more. These are the options available to a party upon whom fraud has been committed. Mere silence is not fraud. Like we have discussed, mere remaining silent on some aspects is not a fraud, but it depends upon situation to situation. A party to the contracts is under no obligation to disclose the whole truth to the other party. No party in the business transactions, we cannot expect any party to divulge all the details. Okay, all the details. Now, someone comes to me and say that he wants to buy a racing bike. Okay, now I give him a racing bike. I give him a racing bike, but the racing bike is such that after 6 months he'll have to get the tires replaced. Okay, he has not asked me anything, and I'm not bound to tell him that after 6 months of racing the tires will go flat. You'll have to buy another set of tires. I did not tell him, neither he asked me. Okay, so this is not a fraud, though he wanted a race bike, whose tires would have gone for 2 years. But he did not mention this fact to me. He just purchased the bike, and a usual race bike is 6 months only. So I gave him 6 months tire. So now there is no fraud because I have not actively concealed something, or I have not made a positive suggestion which I do not believe to be positive at all. It is the rule is called caveat emptor, that is, let the purchaser be aware. Okay, buyer be aware, or the let the purchaser be aware, let the purchaser be aware is the rule applicable to the contracts. There is no duty to speak in such cases, and silence does not amount to fraud. Similarly, there is no duty to disclose facts which are within the knowledge of both the parties. Now there is a Sona Slim belt. Okay, someone sees the ad on the Sona Slim belt and he goes to a medical store and he asks, "Do you have the Sona Slim belt?" The medical store owner says, "Yes, I do have it." And he says that, "Does it really make you slim?" The medical practitioner says, "I do not know." Okay, and later on, the belt does not make him slim. Now he files a case against the owner that the belt did not make me slim and he should have informed me that this product is non-functional. Now here this person is under no obligation to inform the buyers that this product is non-functional because buyers should be themselves aware. H sold to W some pigs. Okay. Now H is selling some pigs to W, which are which were to his knowledge suffering from fever. Now pigs are suffering from fever. The pigs were sold with all faults, and H did not disclose the facts to fever, and there was no fraud. Okay. But when he was selling the pigs, he said sold with all faults. Okay. So whatever the fault is there in the pig, he's selling the pigs with all faults. Okay. So it is now duty upon the W, who's the purchaser, to examine the pigs, to test, to verify whether the pigs are suffering from any fever, any ailment, or anything at all. He could have brought his own veterinarian who could have checked those pigs whether they are having some fever or not. But he did not do so and he purchased the pigs with all faults. So now there is no fraud on the part of H. This is Word versus Hobbes, 1878. There are cases in which, now we discussed a situation in which mere silence is not fraud, but there may be cases in which mere silence can also be a fraud. Now let us see duty of a person to speak. First of all, there is a case in which a person is duty bound to speak. Okay, where the circumstances of case are that such that it is the duty of the person observing silence to speak. For example, in contracts of ubrima fidei, contracts of utmost good faith. Okay, contract of ubrima fidei, contract of utmost good faith. In these kinds of contracts, you are duty bound to inform any kind of default. You cannot stay silent. You have a duty to speak. Let us do an example. These are the contracts of insurance. Okay, life, medical, or car insurance. Now, when you go for a life insurance, the life insurance agent will come to you and he'll ask you whether you are suffering whether you smoke. Okay, somehow these kind of questions he will ask you whether you are suffering from any illness, whether you smoke, whether you take any drugs, or whether any family member has a history etc. Heart attack etc. In these cases, you cannot remain silent. You have a duty to speak. You must tell that yes, if you are suffering from any illness, yes or no, whether you smoke, yes or no. You are bound to disclose each and every information as available to you. Otherwise, it will come into the category of a fraud. And these are the contracts of Ubrima Fidei, contracts of utmost good faith. Now, insurer is insuring you, and he is basing his utmost good faith upon you that whatever you tell would be true. You won't hide anything which is not true. Following contracts come within this category. Fiduciary relationship. Here, the person in whom confidence is reposed is under a duty to act with utmost good faith and make full disclosure of all material facts concerning the agreement known to him. Now, fiduciary relationships. Okay, these are the contracts of Gulma Fidei. Fiduciary relationship is like doctor and client, lawyer and client, something like this. Okay. Now when I go to the doctor, okay, I am expected to tell doctor everything. Okay, doctor will ask me whether you are taking any medication, whether this pain is there since how many months, and this and that. I have to tell him everything. Okay, I cannot hide it from him. A broker was asked to buy shares for the client. He sold his own share without disclosing this fact. The client was entitled to avoid the contract or affirm it with the right to claim secret profit made by broker on the transaction, since the relationship between the broker and the client was relationship of utmost good faith. Now I want to buy shares. Okay, so broker is secretly selling me his own shares. Though the share price is same which I wanted to buy from the market, but he is selling me his own shares. He is now committing a breach of the contract. He is playing a fraud upon me. Why? Because I have utmost good faith in him. He should not make unnecessary profit out of me. Now what he's doing is, by his conduct, by selling his own shares to me, he may have purchased shares in the low tide somehow in the market. Now it's on the high tide. I want to purchase those shares, and he's selling his own shares to me, and he's making profit with me. He should have made the profit in the market. Why is he making a profit in me? Okay, so this is a case of fiduciary relationship. Contracts of insurance we just discussed. In a contract of marine, fire, life insurance, there is an implied condition that full disclosure of material facts shall be made. Otherwise, the insurer is entitled to avoid the contract. Now, when I take a fire insurance, he will ask me whether you have got all the electrical fitting in your godown or in your warehouse done through certified electrical fitting people. I'll say yes, though I have got it done from a local electrician, and tomorrow there is a short circuit due to which there is a fire in the godown and the goods are raised. Now I go and seek fire insurance. Now the fire insurance company will avoid the contract. They will say that no, if you had told us that you have got this wiring done by a local electrician, we would have avoided the contract. But now we cannot avoid. Now we avoid the contract. Will not make the payment to you. Okay. Contracts of marriage. Every material fact must be disclosed by the parties to a contract of marriage. See, marriage is like the Hindu religion. We believe that marriages are made in heaven, okay, and marriages are already pre-decided, and marriages are sacrosanct, sacred. They are for 7 lives, not for this life, but 7 coming lives. But in the Muslim law, Islam law, if we go, marriages are Islam law, Christian law. Marriages are a kind of a contract. Okay, so in the contract of a marriage, every material fact must be disclosed. What could be the material fact for a marriage? Okay, qualification etc. It could be a these are the material questions. You have to inform the other party whether you are unmarried or you are a widow or you are a divorcee or you are married and you are contracting a second marriage like in Islam. A Muslim male is allowed to have 4 wives. So when he goes to marry second time and the other wife asks him, are you already married? And he says, no, I'm not married, I'm unmarried. Then this is he is not declaring the facts properly. This marriage is going to be a sham marriage. This lady can avoid this marriage because he did not disclose that he was already previously married. Though 4 weddings are allowed to a Muslim man, but this woman wanted a person who's only married to her. That's it. Contracts of family settlement. These contracts also require full disclosure of material facts within the knowledge of parties. So, family settlement contracts are require full knowledge of parties. So, in these cases, silence will amount to a fraud. Silence will amount to fraud. Share allotment contract. Persons issuing prospectus at the time of public issue of shares, debentures by a joint company have to disclose all material facts within their knowledge. So now when I set up a Reliance, suppose I am a Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani, now I have a Geo platform. Now I issue shares. I bring an IPO, initial public offering of shares. I say that I give you Reliance shares for this is much price. but then I shall disclose my object of the geo platform. What is the profitability of the geo platform? What are the investments made by the foreign direct investors in my platform? What are the investments made by the bankers? I must disclose each and everything. What is my financial prudence? How stable I am financially? Okay, then only I can issue a prospectus. And if I'm making a misstatement in my prospectus and I'm allotting shares to the people, there are huge penalties which could be imposed upon me by the SEBI, and I may be even compelled to return the share allotment money to the people whom I have allotted shares. Even my listing of company may be denied. Okay, so there are huge repercussions. Now we go to another category of uh, misgivings. Okay, another category of misgivings which can vitiate your free consent, that is misrepresentation. Misrepresentation. Now, representation means suggestion, suggesting something. Misrepresentation means making a wrong suggestion. Okay, misrepresentation is the amalgamation of two words, that is mis plus representation. Representation means suggesting something, mis means wrong, making a wrong suggestion. Okay, so it's a wrong suggestion. Now, you must be thinking that wrong suggestion is equal to fraud. Okay, because we discussed, you are suggesting something which you know is not true. Okay, and you are making that suggestion, this amounts to fraud. Okay, so now here we are making a wrong suggestion and we are categorizing it as a misrepresentation. We are not calling it as a fraud. Why? Because both are different. Why? Misrepresentation is a wrong suggestion, but fraud is a false suggestion. Fraud is a false suggestion. Wrong suggestion is misrepresentation. There's huge difference between both of these, wrong suggestion as well as false suggestion. Almost a day night's difference. Now let us see what misrepresentation means and include. The positive assertion in a manner not warranted by the information of the person making it, of that which is not true, though he believes it to be true. Any breach of duty which, without an intent to deceive, gains an advantage of the person committing it, or anyone claiming under him by misleading another to his prejudice or to the prejudice of anyone claiming under him, causing, however, innocently, a party to an agreement to make a mistake as to the substance of the thing which is the subject of an agreement. Now we have to read this definition in one go. Okay, the positive assertion in a manner not warranted by the information of the person making it, of that which is not true though he believes it to be true, and any breach of duty without an intent to deceive gains an advantage of the person committing it, or anyone claiming under him by misleading another to his prejudice or to the prejudice of anyone claiming under him, causing, however, innocently a party to agreement to make a mistake as to the substance of the thing which is the subject matter of the agreement. Now, simply by analyzing this definition, we can make out that here what he's saying. Okay, he himself does not know. Okay, he himself does not know. Ram tells Shyam that this is a 13 carat diamond. But the diamond is not a 13 carat, it's a 6 carat diamond. But when Ram says that this is 13 carat diamond and he knows that it's a 6 carat diamond, then it is a case of fraud. But when Ram says it's a 13 carat diamond and Ram knows and believes it to be 13 carat diamond, but ultimately it's a 6 carat diamond, it's a misrepresentation. Okay, it is a fact in which he believes it to be true. In fraud, the maker of that assertion knows that what assertion I am making is false. But here the assertion is wrong, but the maker of the assertion believes that what he is saying is true. Okay, and without any intent to deceive. Now here the person does not have an intention to deceive. Now when Ram tells Sham that this is a 13 carat diamond, he does not have any intention to deceive Ram, deceive Sham of his money. He genuinely believes that this diamond is a 13 carat diamond and he is selling a 13 carat diamond only. He has no intention to loot Sham's money. Okay, there is no intention to plunder. Gains an advantage to the person. Now he is gaining no advantage. Okay, causing however innocently. Okay, what he is doing is innocently it is happening. He is innocently causing a party to an agreement to make a mistake as to the substance of the thing which is the subject of the argument. Now another party, by his assertions which he believed to be true but are not true, he is causing the other party to make a mistake about the subject matter. Now I tell someone that this rice is a basmati rice. I believe this rice is a basmati rice, but this rice is not a basmati rice. I'm making other party also believe that this is a basmati rice. Okay, so now he is having a mistake about the substance of the subject matter. What is the substance? Subject matter is the rice. What is the substance? Grade of the rice. What is the grade? Grade is basmati. I believe it's basmati. I tell him it's basmati. He also believes it's basmati. But what is the reality? It is not basmati. So now it is a case of misrepresentation. Okay, not an active fraud. It's a case of misrepresentation. Analysis of section 18. Now, statement of fact, which of false would constitute misrepresentation if the maker believes it to be true, but which is not justified by the information he possesses. When there is a breach of duty by a person without any intention to deceive, which brings an advantage to him, so he does not have any intention to deceive, but however, it has brought some advantage to him, though innocently. When a party causes, even though done innocently, the other party to the agreement to make a mistake as to the subject matter. Now let us do an example. A makes a positive statement to B that C will be made the director of a company. Okay, now A is telling B that C will become the director of the company. A makes the statement on information derived not directly from C but from M. Now it is not C who told A, it is M. M told A that C is going to be the director and now A tells it to B. B applies for shares on the faith of the statement which turns out to be false. The statement amounts to misrepresentation because the information received second hand did not warrant A to make the positive statement to B. Because A did not have a verified information, he had an unverified information. The information was not credible, it was a second hand information, so he should not have made this information to B, but he made it to B. Though he may have made it innocently, he just said it. And going back those statements, he purchased those shares and now he has suffered some loss. So this is a case of contract by misrepresentation by A. Example 2. A believed the engine of his motorcycle to be in excellent condition. Now A believes that I have a motorcycle and the engine is running absolutely smooth. It's in excellent condition. A, without getting it checked in a workshop, told B that the motorcycle was in excellent condition. On this statement, B bought the motorcycle, whose engine proved to be defective. Now here, A statement is misrepresentation as the statement turns out to be false. Now in this case, A has not made any fraud, it is a mere misrepresentation. Why? Because even A believes that his engine is in smooth condition, it's in excellent condition. Later on some defects cropped out. But it could have been easily known had he have taken it for a mechanical inspection by the mechanic, but he did not get it done. So in this case, this is a case of pure misrepresentation. Now, what are the legal effects of an agreement without free consent? Okay, what are the legal effects of an agreement without free consent. When consent to an agreement is caused by coercion, fraud, or misrepresentation, the agreement is a contract voidable at the option of the party whose consent was so caused. We have discussed voidable is avoidable. The party to the contract whose consent was so caused by fraud or misrepresentation may, if he thinks fit, insist that the contract shall be performed and that he shall be put in the position in which he would have been if representation had been true. So now, when he says that okay, I'll buy a motorcycle, but I'll buy it in such a manner that if you would have told me that engine required some repairs and is not in excellent condition, then I would have purchased your bike at this particular price. So now give me extra money back. Okay, this is what they are saying. You will split the contract. Okay, if such consent was caused by misrepresentation or by silence, fraudulent within meaning 17, the contract is not voidable if the party whose consent was so caused had the means of discovering the truth with ordinary diligence. Okay, now there is an exception that if the consent is caused by misrepresentation or by silence, okay, of such a nature that it was easily discoverable, the truth was easily discoverable by ordinary diligence. So in that case, we will not deem it to be a fraud or misrepresentation. Now he is telling me that this bike's engine is running smooth, but when I tried to start the bike did not start in even in 5 attempts. In sixth attempt, the bike started. So I can, in my ordinary diligence, believe that the bike's engine is not excellent, but still I went on to buy the bike. Now I cannot claim misrepresentation later on. Explanation to section 19. A fraud or misrepresentation which did not cause the consent to a contract of the party on whom such fraud was practiced or to whom such misrepresentation was made does not render a contract voidable. Okay. So the other party is trying to make a play a fraud upon me or making a misrepresentation, but I know the reality. When someone says that this is a 13 carat diamond and I am a diamond merchant, I know that this is not a 13 carat diamond, but still I go on to buy it for a 13 carat rate. Now, in that case, there is no fraud upon me because I am actively willing. Okay, my consent is free consent because I know the fraud, and then also I am going ahead with the contract. So my consent in this case is a free consent, though some advantage has been taken by other party. It is immaterial, like we discussed. Adequacy of the consideration is immaterial. Only thing material is that a consent has to be free consent. A, intending to deceive B, falsely represents that 500 mounts of indigo are made annually at A's factory. A is intending to deceive B. Okay, he says that in my factory I am annually making 500 mounts of indigo and thereby induces B to buy the factory. You buy my factory. The contract is voidable at the option of B. This is because when the consent to an agreement is caused by coercion, fraud, or misrepresentation, the agreement is a contract voidable at the option of party whose consent was so caused. Okay, this is a voidable agreement if A is making a false statement because B in this case cannot be expected to ordinarily know the capacity of A's factory because this is the annual capacity. Okay, and he cannot see the annual capacity because he does not have the means. Okay, A, by misrepresentation, leads B to believe erroneously that 750 tons of sugar is produced per annum at the factory of A. B examines the account of factory, which should have disclosed, if ordinary diligence had been exercised by B, that only 500 tons had been produced. Thereafter, B purchases the factory. In the circumstances, B cannot repudiate the contract on the grounds of
It's 1
A's
o'clock.
misrepresentation. Now, A said, my factory is capable of producing 750 tons of sugar per annum. Now, what B went to his factory and checked the factory's capacity and checked the annual production capacity as well on the files. Now, on the file, it is clearly mentioned that the annual production is 500 tons. then also he went ahead and purchased it. Now in this case, we cannot say that he was feeling any effect of the fraud at all. So whatever decision he has taken is out of his own free will and free consent. Now he cannot repudiate the contract on the basis of fraud of the A. Where a party to a contract commits fraud or misrepresentation, but the other party is not, in fact, misled by such fraud or misrepresentation, the contract cannot be avoided by the latter. Okay, now we have discussed this. This is again a repetition. Now we'll discuss mistake. Okay, but mistake we'll do in next chapter. Let us discuss this example where a party to a contract commits fraud or misrepresentation, but the other party is not, in fact, misled by such fraud or misrepresentation. So here they are saying, though in my own way I have committed a fraud, okay, or I have made a misrepresentation, but the other party, while dealing with me, it was not at all moved by my fraud or my misrepresentation. He had accepted the contract on basically different terms and conditions. Okay, my fraud or misrepresentation did not have any effect at all on his decision, on the decision making of the other party. So now the other party cannot avoid the contract on the basis of fraud or misrepresentation because they were not the key factors for deciding the consent for the agreement. Thus, when a seller of specific goods deliberately conceals a fault in order that the buyer may not discover it, even if he inspects the good, but the buyer does in fact. Okay, now what has happened? A seller of specific goods has deliberately conceals a fault in such a manner that buyer may not discover it, even if he inspects, but buyer has discovered. Okay, so the buyer does not in fact make an inspection. The buyer cannot avoid the contract as he is not in fact deceived by the conduct of the seller. Okay, because he has not made any inspection at all, he did not care at all. Okay, though the seller had committed fraud and he had concealed the fraud as well in such a manner that even after inspection he could not have known it. But what buyer even did not care to inspect, he just bought it. Okay, so ordinarily he should have inspected it. So when buyer did not at all care about anything, he just wanted to purchase that thing only. So now in that case, the buyer cannot plead this thing, this fraud or misrepresentation.